doing this kind of stuff would be enough for you to understand English, but it clearly isn't. Put up your hand if that part's plain as day. Okay, and if you think there's some problem with that. Okay. So then I said, okay, well, maybe that's the wrong way to think of it. Maybe, after all, there is something here that understands English, because there's a virtual personality here, the personality that's being exhibited by the whole system. It's not the same as the personality of the man actually manipulating the signs. Just as you can talk about what the whole computer does, and that's something different to talking about what the chip does. You could regard this guy as the chip. You could regard your brain as the chip and say that what I can understand, what I can think of, that's different to what my brain can do. So you could say there's a virtual personality here that might be short-tempered or whatever, and it understands English. Is that easier to understand? Put up your hand if you now understand what I'm asking. Uh-huh. Can anyone formulate that puzzlement into a question? Okay. Let me try another way of putting this. It could be that this guy, okay, so this guy is outputting in Chinese. Suppose that he also gets asked questions in Korean. Suppose that this guy does not understand a word of Korean either. He could still be outputting answers in Korean. Yeah? And those answers might fit very well with what a Korean speaker would say. Yeah?
So, is it based on the perception of the person outside who's getting these results that to them from the whole room, it seems like the letter was written by someone who understands?
That's right. That's right. That's the basic test we began with. Yeah, you got this guy and you got a regular Chinese speaker, both behind a screen, and you don't know. And the question is, can you tell which one it is that is generating those answers? Yep. Yep.
I've got a question. So everything happens inside your brain, chemical reaction, right?
Yes.
So chemical reaction is based on rules, right?
Chemical reactions based on rules. Yep. That's right. So if that's your picture of what is going on in the brain, then it's just like what this guy is doing. Yeah?
So for us, it's like when I see an apple, it's just chemical reaction inside my brain.
Right.
Generate the apple image inside. Maybe I want to get it, so I would tell everyone I want to get an apple. All the thing is just chemical reaction.
That's right.
And there's like in chemistry, there are different rules to
Yes, right.
describe the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So the rules is just like a book. So it's
Exactly, yes, yes. But this guy doesn't understand any Chinese or English. I mean, well, actually, we see what I mean. This guy doesn't understand any of the relevant language, Chinese. Yeah? So if what this guy's doing is just like what you're doing, then you don't understand English. Therefore, since you do understand English, there must be more going on in you than just this business of chemical reactions in the brain, governed by rules. Thinking of the human in terms of chemical reactions in the brain governed by rules can't explain what it is to understand a language. That's the argument. Yeah. Because it's such a natural, powerful idea, what you just said. Yeah. It's a dominant scientific idea in approaching the study of the mind. But this seems to show it just can't be right. Yep, yep. Exactly, that's right.
Okay, but then what about this concept of attaching meaning? Like, where did it come from? How did we develop the ability to attach meaning?
Yes.
And I'm not quite sure how to answer that, but I would guess that one of the ways that we've developed this ability to attach meaning was through experience.
Very good, yes.
And so, furthermore, building on that, experience is one of those things where, as you grow older, you go through things, and through trial and error, through actual doing, you are able to gain experience and then understand what your subjective feeling is.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
So then couldn't you argue that with enough of this doing, a computer could also develop an inventory of meanings and then somehow
Yeah.
attach that to meaning?
That's a really powerful idea, yeah. But couldn't you do something like that with this system? I mean, suppose you could make this teaching in the sense that sometimes when he puts things out, puts sentences out, you give him an error message. Yeah? So you put back in a big cross or something, you say, no, think about that again. And he has to try again in putting out some other set of symbols. Yeah? Or maybe the book gets modified. Yeah? But so maybe he modifies the book when he gets error reactions. Yeah? But he could be doing that forever, really modifying the book in response to error reactions. Maybe he just has to trial and error his responses until the people on the other side send him a tick. And then he says, okay, so that's the book. Yeah. If that's what learning from experience is, it seems like you could do a lot of it without ever understanding a word of what's going on. You see what I mean? Nonetheless, what you're saying is powerful. It's just that you have to be very explicit about what you mean by learning from experience. Yeah. I mean, this is a little bit like Nagel's thing, in the sense that if you look at the bat scientifically, you still don't know anything about what it's conscious of, what its conscious life is. It's a bit like Bloch's thing, in that if you look at the homunculus-headed robot, if you look at this robot with 1 billion people in it, then you could understand what that whole system is doing, but there's no mental life for you to understand. And here the point is, if you understand the human brain as a computer, you still know nothing about how it's understanding its language. It's another of that same family of arguments that is showing that looking at the mind objectively seems to be missing something out, missing all the key things out. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I don't think so. If this guy is inside there, he's hungry. So,
Is this guy what? Sorry.
He's hungry.
Yep.
So he wants to get food, right? So if you're hungry, he search the book and then he got a thing like, if you're hungry, just put out these few words.
Yes.
So in this way, he can learn that hungry in that these few words.
That's great.
So it's how we learn language, right?
That's great. Okay. Okay. I strongly agree, actually. What this guy's missing is connecting it up to stuff like hunger. Yeah? So you could say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, it could be that if he's hungry, that's got to generate, if there's hunger here, that's got to generate some symbols. Yeah? But that's not what you want. What you want is for him to be experiencing the hunger and therefore knowing which symbols to generate. Yeah? So there's got to be a real thing here, that's a real experience here that he's able to connect to the symbols.
That's for the computers. If it's like
Yeah.
low on battery, right? He will pull out a sign that I'm low on battery. So it is kind of like what
Right, very good. This is the really delicate thing. This is the really important thing. What was the computer low on? The computer was low on printer ink?
low on battery.
Battery, right, yeah. Okay, that's very good. Okay, so there are two ways to think about this. You got the computer low on battery, right? So over here we have the battery. Okay? And that really is low. So when the battery is low, that outputs a symbol. Let's say, suppose that's something like that. It outputs a symbol to the computer. And then the computer outputs a symbol, right? When you feel hungry, one way of thinking about it is that your stomach outputs a symbol to the brain, yeah? And then the brain responds to that. Now, if you think of the whole system like that this guy could have, you could easily put a battery over there, yeah? This guy doesn't need to see the battery. It's just that when the battery's low, it outputs a symbol like that. And then he gets a symbol, and he looks in the book, and it says, in that case, output a squoggle, and off he goes. Yeah? But that's not, so that really is something a computer can do. But that's not what you're thinking. You're thinking there's a feeling of being hungry. There's that raw feeling itself, the conscious state. And the guy's got to feel that and then output the sign because that's what he's feeling. That's what you want, not just to get a random sign that he doesn't know what it stands for.
Because in here you just separate the battery from the computer, right?
That's right.
So, but
That's right. Well, this is the delicate thing. Either you separate them, in which case you get something that the computer model can easily explain, can easily characterize. And then that's fine. I can run that too. That just goes in here. And the whole system is still no closer to understanding what's going on than it was before. Or else you say, no, it's the raw feeling. That's what it's got to be responding to, not just a symbol. And I think that's right. I think you're right about that. And that connects to that previous question about experience. But it's when you hook up the signs to experience that you get an understanding of meaning. What this guy is missing is awareness of his environment. He's not conscious of anything going on around. That was that question about apples. Yeah, that intuitively what you'd like to do is take the experience of an apple or the feeling of hunger and hook up the signs of your language to all those conscious experiences of yours. Use this sign to stand for hunger. You know what hunger is because you feel it. Use that sign to stand for apple. You know what apples are because you've experienced them. You've seen them. Yeah. But the computer model of the mind, that just can't do that. I mean, if you said to one of these AI guys, look, it's not that hard to make a computer that understands English. All you have to do is, first of all, make a computer that feels hunger, sees apples, then stack in the symbols, and you're up and running. But how do you make a computer that feels hunger? You can't make a computer that feels hunger. You can't make a computer that has the experience of seeing an apple. That's as hard as the original problem. How would you do that? The best you could do would be to do this kind of thing. Produce a computer that, in response to some stimulus from the battery or from the external environment, generates a symbol. Not the experience of seeing an apple or the experience of hunger. It just generates a symbol, and then it manipulates with that. But how could that, the basic question then still remains, how could that add up to understanding? Because when you think about how we understand English, we do it by experiencing our environment and then using signs for the things we experience. An understanding of language depends on consciousness. But if you said to a computer guy, it's easy to understand how to build a computer that speaks a language, first of all, make a computer that's conscious. Then, once you've done that, just make a program like this. But making a computer that's conscious is not, that's usually regarded as about the hardest unsolved problem in science at the moment. How could you do that? The computer model wouldn't be giving us any analysis of what consciousness is. It would just be using consciousness as something to build on. But what we want to understand is, in the objective world, what phenomenon is consciousness? But that was where we began when we were talking about Nagel. Any last comments, questions on that? Okay, well, so there's no lecture on Friday, and on Monday we'll come back to look more optimistically at science, and we'll look at how scientific approaches to them